Assalamualaikum to semua Mak Wafi and friends. So, today we are from group 2. We'll present chapter 5, which is planning approach. So, our group consists of 5 members, which is me, myself, SYAMIMI Nadhirah binti AHMAD, Muhammad SYAZUAN bin JAUS, NURUL HASANAH binti ABDUL RAZAK, AIMAN MUSTAQIM, and also Muhamad SYAKIR AZFAR. So now let's start with the introduction. The introduction. Approaches to recreation resource planning divide to 4 approach, which is resource approach, behavioral approach, activity approach, and also economic approach. Despite the latest trend in park planning is combined approach. So, resource approach is referring to the physical or natural resources, while activity approach refer to social demand. Behavioral approach focus on how one's environment and how external stimuli affect a person's mental state and development. And lastly, economic approach is emphasizing more on the economic impact of tourism.
Okay, next I will explain about resource approach. So, what is resource approach? Resource approach is physical or natural resources that will determine the types and the amount of recreation opportunity provided. If the resources available at the area is river, the developer or the organization can grab the opportunity to provide recreational activity like water rafting, tubing, or water abseiling at the area to fulfill the demand, especially people who love the adventure activities. Other than that, snorkeling activities, which is resources available in island. In this case, supply will limit the demand and the carrying capacity. For example, the available supply only a river, but demand more activity like hiking, caving, or trekking. That it will be limiting the demand people around there or the residents at the area. Next, the characteristic of resource approach is latent demand. Latent demand will be considered more important than the express demand in the planning. Latent demand more important because the natural resources at the area only the river, but the demand stated by residents, they want hiking. Latent demand exists because this is refers to the resource approach. Lastly, the emphasis of planning is more towards natural resources consideration rather than the user, which is they don't fulfill residents' needs because they focus on availability natural resources at the area.
So this is the example of the activity based on natural resources, which is whitewater rafting. The other example is snorkeling activity, which is the availability resources is island.
Hello guys, Assalamualaikum and selamat sejahtera. So I will continue with another slide, that is a behavioral approach. So we go to the characteristic of planning for behavioral approach. Firstly, it is a complex and controversial planning approach. Therefore, it needs people or user involvement in planning. So, what is mean of needs people or user involvement in planning? This is involvement of the third party, that is a people that who involved in this planning. Okay, we continue. This is the another characteristic There is human behavior and their usual participation experience during leisure time will influence their choices of recreation opportunity. So, this is the example of another characteristic. There is Mr. Hakim. He always going to the Gunung Ledang for having hiking. So, this experience for its leisure activity will influence his choice to do the activity again. We continue with another slide or another characteristic. There is both users and non-users factor are dominant. Try accommodate with both express and latent demand of users. For the lastly, there is work based on pluralism society such as in the urban area. So, what is the pluralism of society? Pluralism society, there is diverse one where the people in it believe all kinds of different things and tolerate each other belief even when they don't match their own. Other than that, the meaning of pluralism refer to the society, system of government or organization that has different groups that keep their identities while existing with other groups or a more dominant group rather than just one group, subgroup or culture dictating how things go. Pluralism recognize a large number of competing interest groups that share the power. Pluralism serves a model of democracy where different groups can voice their opinion as an idea. As example of Malaysian people that have multicultural, so they can live harmony without any problem or racism that can be a poisoning to the society.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. Okay, I am MUSTAQIM and I would like to present about economic approach. So, this is my slide. Okay, economic approach is emphasized more on the economic impact of tourism and the most efficient and effective use of tourism to create income and employment benefits for the regions, communities, and country as a whole. Taxes influence the economy by determining how much money do government need to spend and how much money individuals should spend. For example, if the government is trying to spur spending among consumers, it can decrease taxes. There are a few characteristics of planning regarding economic approach, which is the amount, types, and location of recreation opportunity provided based on fiscal factors. Fiscal factors is taxes and spending. Economic factors are considered the most important factors than social and natural factors because this is the government general income. Therefore, fees and charges are usually common in this type of parks. Okay, we move to the next slide. Politicians and businessmen saw this as an opportunity to generate their income because of emphasis of planning, largely influenced by market demand. So, this type of recreation usually be manipulated by them. For example, hiking. Hiking has been a trend these days. So, there has been many business regarding hiking in Malaysia, such as Bukit Senaling, Gunung Angsi, Gunung Datuk, and so on. Lastly, planning of park usually require careful and thorough analysis and use of sophisticated methods. Usually in this case, quantity outweighs the quality because of the increase in the revenue. That's all.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I speak to my lecturer, Sir Muhamad Wafi bin Rahman. My name is Muhammad SYAKIR AZFAR bin SHAFIE. Today, I want to present about the combined approach. Okay, we go to my presentation is combined approach. Combined approach is approach imply utilizing or other excellent procedure, dependability, extension, conservation at the same time. Just the means of any fabulous technique utilized by any association, organization, simultaneous or similar business at various occasions which they plan to improve its profession is called a blend procedure. Combined approach also inventory the assessment of ability to future leisure of user group, description and functionality. The estimation of the recreation supply of demand in the term potential resource type and user group. And lastly, translate this require into guideline on the planning, design, survey, landscape interpretation, and also benefit cost analysis. The combined approach feature are or the characteristic of combined approach is first is it is a mixture of more than one planning approach. Second, it is used to satisfy the needs and desire of the consumer and service. All the benefit feature or method in this combination are used and balanced. Number 3 is the combined approach needed the detailed planning in depth. And lastly is the process usually followed to plan a part of the approach. This is example that we can see of the combined approach. My first is Sawe Lagoon in Bandar Sawe, Subang Jaya, Selangor, Malaysia, and Legoland Malaysia in Iskandar Puteri, Johor, Malaysia.
Okay. For the conclusion, recreation resources planning approach is about matching the supply of recreation to the demand for it in such a way that the resources is not degraded. It is also a judicious, efficient dynamic cycle, and as such it is a central device that discourages our human propensities to settle on choice dependent on inclination, predisposition, lacking investigation, obedience, separate joint of view, protection from change, and exorbitant self-assurance. It brings about choice that are more successful, productive, reasonable, contemplate, and faultless. Recreation resources planning approach is a systematic process to accomplish the ideal utilizations of an association's times and individuals, utilizing a conflict of undertaking the board utilities, board abilities, and timekeeping. They need to make and keep up dependability between project, tasks, teams, times, and budget. So, that's all from us. Thank you, and please be safe at home.